Welcome back to the Good Success Podcast. I am your host, Tom Olson, and I am here with a friend of mine that I've met, I don't know, gosh, Jack, it's probably been 7 or 8 years since we first met at Collective Genius many, many years ago. And Jack is in the land business, and he teaches his students how to find land and how to create deals and different exit strategies. And we're really excited to have Jack on. So, Jack, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Awesome. So it's a pleasure to have Jack on. But before we get started, I definitely want to just let you guys know, some of the things that we've got going on around here. So this is around Christmas season. You can even see the background that I've got right now. And right now we are going through the middle of the 12 days of Christmas. So, check us out on the different social media platforms. Check us out if you're on our email list, you're getting those every day from us, where I'm challenging you every single day, instead of trying to figure out what my true love can give to me. In the song, The 12 Days of Christmas, my true love gave to me. Instead of being so focused on what you're going to get for Christmas this year, focus on what you can give to others. And most of the challenges aren't like monetary, aren't like actual real gifts that you go out and buy, but they're normally challenges like challenges of support, or challenges of a challenge, or challenges of thankfulness. Sometimes they can be money, or they can be gifts like that. But at Good Success, like, the whole reason why I do what I do is to encourage kingdom-driven entrepreneurs to have a purpose-driven life, to know why they're created, and to try to reach that potential in that purpose. So I'm excited to be doing this. And we're going to be also going through the 30 days of Good Success journey in January. So look out for that as well. So we've got the workbook here, 165 pages of helping you figure out what your purpose is, and then trying to figure out what your core genius is to put you in the right success-driven path for yourself. So super excited about those things. If you guys haven't already subscribed to the Good Success Podcast, go on iTunes, go on those different places, Apple, Stitcher, give us a 5-star review, and tell your friends and family about us. We'd love to have you there. So back to the show. We've got Jack Bosch. Like I said, he's done tons of, I don't even know how many, countless deals he's done. Maybe he can get into that for us a little bit. But Jack, just tell us who you are, what you do, and kind of how long you've been doing that for.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me on here. I am 22 years ago, I landed in the United States in Chicago with 2 suitcases and a bunch of student debt. So 1997, I got there. I'd never been to the U.S. before. I came here for 1 year college exchange program to finalize a master's, to finalize my college degree, and to learn better English. And I had my job lined up in Germany and everything like that. And then I got to that university. I checked in and everything. And after like 3 weeks, getting used to it, I really started right from the get-go, and started enjoying the American kind of can-do attitude. Everyone was like, "Hey, great to have you here. Where are you from?" "Germany." "Oh, so cool. Tell me about it." And it was just such a wonderful environment that I really fell in love with it. Second thing happened 3 weeks later. I met this girl that just like blew me away. And so I was like, let me try to see. I was single, so let me try to see if I can convince her to go out with me and so on. Well, fast forward, 22 years have passed. This girl is now my wife of 18 years now. We are married. We have we have 1 little girl and a dog. We have a 12-year-old daughter. We're both American citizens. And 5 years into that, and so we finished our college degrees. She's not from here either. She's from Honduras, Central America. We both got jobs, and we soon realized the job thing wasn't what we were made to do. I mean, just like sitting in a cubicle for 40 years with people that you may or may not like, and having 2 or 3 weeks vacation and making just enough to pay your bills. I mean, who came up with that? And so the long story short is, I was groomed for that. My parents sent me to school, sent me to college. I was focused on this job career thing. And then I realized this is not what I want to do. And so we started looking around. We tapped into real estate, or fell into real estate, or stumbled into real estate, couldn't make it work, struggled with all kinds of different real estate ways, wholesaling, rehabbing, tax lien, tax deals. And then we came across land, and all of a sudden things just started flowing. And we have done since then over 4,000 land deals, made millions of dollars, built the life of our dream. And we spend our life now to still doing land deals, teaching land deals, and traveling around the world 3 months out of the year.
That's awesome. That's just an amazing story, and kind of like, you didn't necessarily come here poor, but you definitely came here with not like, you had no idea what you were going to find when you came here. But
yeah, I didn't have to jump over fences or hide on a boat or something like that. I came here with a good education and good things, but just with no money, basically. So, yeah.
But what you said surprised you was this like can-do spirit. So, as somebody from me, not necessarily spending a lot of time in other countries, like why is that different? And I didn't really expect to ask this question because it just kind of came through. But, how is that different from what your experience was before you came? Was it just your upbringing, or is it really just a different cultural mix in the United States versus other countries?
I think both. So my upbringing was such that nobody in my entire family, on both sides of the family, nobody had there was one distant relative that had its own company, but nobody else had a company. So the upbringing was always like play it safe. Like it's get a good education, get a job, and if you can get tenure, my dad was a tenured government employee, a teacher. It's like, then if you can get tenure, then you got the lottery, right? Because then you just have to do whatever you did, like the minimum kind of like, or do a good job, not the minimum. My dad always worked really, really hard. But then you do you do your job, and you can't get fired, and you get your government pension at the end. And then when you're old and retired, then you just go do some travel and things like that. And that's what I was brought up. And anything outside of that was viewed with love, but with skepticism. I was like, ooh, isn't that risky? And that's a general German kind of thing. Like when Germans now hear about us doing land flips, they're like, well, that's crazy. Where's the fault? Why does this not work? So it's more like an attitude that makes them great engineers. The reason Germans have such good cars is that their focus is on how can we eliminate anything that does not work and make this thing perfect, right? So that's okay, but therefore these cars are extremely expensive and take decades to generate. If you don't want to wait decades to do something, you got to be in a different environment. And in the US, it's literally like you come here and you tell somebody, hey, you're flipping land. They're like, well, I know nothing about it, but that sounds cool to me, right? And that's just a completely different environment. Plus, coming as an immigrant is actually a benefit potentially, because if you're in a family that is also kind of like very conservative, you probably have the same pullbacks that people come and say like, hey, isn't this too hard to stay with what you know and so on. But leaving the family and coming over here, it's clean slate. You can just do whatever the heck you want. You can reinvent yourself. You can go out and you do some stuff because you can always go back in your old environment.
Yeah, that's true. That's such good advice there. And, I knew a little bit of your story, but I didn't realize all of that. And I'm really appreciative for you sharing that. So thank you so much for being vulnerable and letting us know all of that. But I honestly haven't been to Europe very many times, and I'm interested in that culture. Actually, as this video will go out and as this podcast goes out, I'm probably either in Israel or I will be coming back from Israel.
Oh, beautiful.
So it's always interesting to know what the other cultures are like. I actually just read a story this morning, kind of about how people of the United States and these kids that grow up, like we have technology and we've got all these things that make our life so easy, and it should be just amazing with cell phones and tablets and everything that we have. But you look at the family structure and you say, hey, what is one of the biggest things that we hear our kids say, and it like frustrates us to no end? They say, I'm bored. And I'm like, you've got all of these things. How in the world can you be bored? But then you take them to some, like the poorest place in the country, or poorest place in Mexico, or poorest place in the poorest country. And like, you've got 30 kids out in the middle of the, street playing with a tin can or something. And they're as happy as can possibly be. In many ways, I think some of the technology and some of the things that we have and have given is actually like taken away what really matters in life. So, but it's really interesting to kind of see both sides of that, but also to see like how you can come from nothing And if you have some grit and if you have some tenacity, and you even said yourself, you went through wholesaling, you went through rehabs, and you're like, I can't do any of it. I don't want to do this. This is not for me. And then you found what you thought you were really good at. So I think it's really cool to just learn from different people and learn from different stories. But at the end, like, you made it happen. So so how did you actually get into land? So let me kind of just drill down into that.
Yeah. So the first step is we first got ourselves some books and some tapes and stuff about real estate, and we started studying that stuff, and we didn't understand a thing about it because, again, coming from another country, like, even terminology is used differently. Like, what's a deed? A deed is like in church they talk about do a good deed, right? Not a bad deed, right? So I was like confused and looking stuff up, and 2x4s. What is that? What's a 2x4? What's a drywall? So we were just not knowing what to do. So the first deal we thought we'd do was a wholesale deal. So we did driving for dollars. We drove around and we found this boarded up house and triplex, actually. We contacted the owner and tracked them down to the public records and sent them a letter. And they said, like, yeah, I'll sell it to you. But then we messed up completely on the estimates of repairs. And because not knowing anything, like, if you at least grow up here, you have a little bit better understanding what something costs. But not growing up here, I don't know if it costs $20,000 or $2,000 to rehab a bathroom, right? I don't know if it costs the same $5,000 or $50,000 to repair a roof. At least back then, that was our mindset. We didn't know. So we tried to wholesale it, and nobody would buy it because it was just overpriced, and we underestimated all the repairs. And the pros came and looked at it, and they're like, no, you guys are crazy. It's way overpriced. And so nobody bought it. And then the rehab, we actually didn't touch, luckily, because it would have burned us so bad, because the next step would have been to buy that thing and rehab it. So as you said, not that rehabbing doesn't work. I mean, you and I know there's this works, of course. I mean, we have since rehabbed some houses and made good money with them, but wholesaling, of course, works. We sell half of our land per wholesale. But it wasn't the right thing for us at a time. Our ability, our capability, our confidence, our bank account, we just were not ready for it. So we needed to look for a different way. And what we found was tax liens and tax deeds. So we looked at tax liens and tax deeds, and we went to a tax lien auction. And if you don't know what that means for the audience, a tax lien is like, basically, if somebody doesn't pay the property taxes, every property comes with property taxes. If somebody doesn't pay their property taxes, then the government has two ways to actually get that property back and back into the hands of somebody else that ultimately will pay property taxes. And one of them is that they actually take the unpaid property taxes and auction them off at an auction. And the other one, and then the buyer buys not the property, buys a lien against the property. And then if the owner doesn't pay the property taxes for 3 years in many states, or 2 to 5 years, they can then foreclose on the property, and then they own the property, and then they pay the property taxes again. But in the meantime, at least through these auctions, the government gets their money. The second way is that they actually say, we don't do that, we just wait and we sell the actual property. Well, we love that. That concept blew us away because, again, coming from Europe, coming from Central America, there's no such thing like these auctions, and this concept doesn't exist. So we're like, oh my God, what we heard was, number one, there's people that don't want their property anymore. There's people that literally let them go for taxes and are willing to walk away and get zero. It's crazy. One thing to buy a wholesale house at 50 grand that you think that is worth perhaps 150, but it's another thing to buy something that to have people that literally just completely let that stuff go. It just blew our mind. So we went to a tax lien auction. We bought liens. 3 weeks later, they got redeemed. Basically, the sellers paid them off, and we made $3.72 in interest. We're like, great. That's not the way to make it here. Like, so of course you can make money, but if you start with $1 million and you make a 16% return, that's great, right? But if you start with 3,000, then you make $3.72. And then we attended the tax deed auction, right? Michelle flew out to California, attended one, and she was outbid on everything. So she took all the money we had, and she was outbid on every single property. We couldn't get anything. But then one day we had a thought, and that answers your question, how we stumbled into it. And that thought was, what if we could actually go around these auctions and go to the people that owe the property taxes directly and just write them a letter? Because if they don't want these properties anymore, if they truly have given up and have said like the government can have them, wouldn't they be willing to accept an offer for like 5 cents, 10 cents, 20 cents on the dollar? And so we tested that, and we tested it with multiple kind of variations of letters, and we tested it. And finally we got one letter right, and we got the right list, and we sent out the 400 letters, and we got something like 30 or 40 responses from that. And the strange thing was every single one of them was land. So all the landowners called us, and we're like, well, what do we do now? So we didn't really know what to do next. So we said like, well, I don't know if I want land on land. I think I got to be extra careful. So we offered a guy that had a property that we thought was worth $8,000. We offered him $400, and he accepted it. And we went and sold it to the neighbor. We went up there, put a sign on the property. The neighbor comes across the streets and buys it right on the spot for $4,000. And that's like 10 times our money. And then the next deal 2 weeks later was another land deal where we bought something for $500, sold it for $10,000. And then we just started doing more and more deals. And after like 15 deals, we're like, you know what? Excuse my language, but screw houses. Like, let's forget about houses. Let's just take houses out of the equation. Let's forget about houses. Let's not deal with houses anymore. Let's just focus on land, because we can buy them for 5 to 25 cents on the dollar. We can sell them online in a matter of sometimes 10 days for 2, 3, or even 10 times what we bought them for. Hallelujah. We're making the same money that the house flippers make without ever actually having to leave our home, because you can look at all of that from online, from Google View, Google Earth. And so we found, in my opinion, what we think is the holy grail of real estate. So we just stuck to our guns and started for the next 6 years. We just did only land flips.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you've basically created a whole niche out of something that really, like, most people that are doing flips or they're doing whatever, these are kind of throwaway, leads for
Exactly.
those. And, it's very interesting when you start fishing in a pond where nobody else is fishing in, you can get the biggest fish, and you can take, you can choose what you decide to keep and what you don't decide to keep. So it's an awesome business model. We've done a little bit of it in our area. We're in a more highly populated area. So I think a lot of your deals are more of your deals like in urban areas, or are they more like normally kind of outside the most populated areas?
So we're dealing with 3 kinds of properties usually. We're focusing on 3 kinds of property that we identified have a built-in massive buyer amount of buyers. So these are the properties that we can get cheap and we can sell them very quickly. Number 1, it's properties in the outskirts of bigger cities. So yes, they are technically rural, but they're only perhaps a 5 to 25-minute drive away from the bigger city. So this is when you drive outside of a big city. If you think about it, you usually come, once the last master plan development ends, you usually see a whole bunch of houses dotted around. Well, that's people that want to have some more space and don't want to pay $500,000 for 2 acres in the middle of the city. They want to have 5 acres outside that they pay $50,000 for. Mm-hmm. And then they build a house and have horses and goats and whatever they like to have. Those are kind of the buyers. Or it's financial buyers. If you're only like a couple of miles outside of the city, or 4 or 5 miles, or whatever it is, but a few miles outside of the city, it's also financial buyers that like to buy and hold and wait for the city to approach, because it's in the path of growth. So if it's truly in the path of growth and it takes another 10, 15 years for that $50,000 property to be worth $500,000, well, they're gladly waiting for a 10-fold increase over 10 years. So these are people that pull money from the stock market, invested in there, and then they own those properties. And they pay property taxes every year happily while they see the value of going higher as the city comes closer. The second kind of properties we focus is indeed rural properties, but these are larger properties. Like, there's a lot of people, the entire RV crowd, ATV crowd, dirt bike crowd, hiking crowd, like the camping crowd. This is a multi-billion dollar industry, and millions of Americans would love. They spent their week in the city, but on the weekend they want to go out and have fun at the lake or be close to a lake at the least. And these properties in attractive areas. So there's lots of unattractive areas in the country. So I'm not talking about like the complete utter desert with a bush no higher than 2 feet. I'm talking about the pretty areas, the areas where people want to go to. If you live in Atlanta, you're 2 hours away from the Smoky Mountains. Right? If you live in New Orleans, you can also go into green areas or anything. If you live in St. Louis. You can go to like whatever there's like Branson, Missouri, or something like that, right? There's entertainment, there's hotels, there's restaurants. Yet you can still have fun on a property with rolling hills, trees, a creek, and so on. And people love that stuff for dirt biking, for hunting, for all this kind of thing. So we have this huge market of buyers for that. And then thirdly, it is actually in the city, infill lots. So we do like infill lots in the city, not necessarily like the multi-$100,000 infill lots, but the infill lots in like typical normal neighborhoods where you think about 35 houses, 2 empty lots. Houses are worth 300 grand. These lots are by definition therefore worth about 25% of that, by $75,000. You can pick those up for 35, sell them to a builder for 65 or 70, make a $25,000 profit, and move on to the next deal. So those are our typical deals. So they're not necessarily rural, but the fact is that because you can do this virtually because it's land, right? You don't have to go out there. You don't have to do this where you live. And because you mentioned like where you are, it's a more urban. Well, we also have people that live in towns of like 35 people, and they go do it on the other side of the country. You have a student that lives in New Hampshire, does deals in Florida and in Alaska. Another one lives in California, does deals in Arizona and in Texas and in Tennessee or so. So it really doesn't matter where you live.
That's awesome. So I love the stories. So, the one type of property that I didn't hear you talk about, and I was actually expecting to hear you talk about, is potential like cash flow property. So like, for instance, in the plains, you have a lot of like corn land and a lot of land that's just like is, 10, 20, 30 acre tracts where like somehow it ends up in foreclosure. But the farmer down the street, if he knew about it, he would either lease it from you or he would give you some kind of a deal with, how much money he makes from his crops for the year or well. So is that something, is that like another, ancillary option that you teach at all? Or is that just kind of something that you don't see as much as I would have thought you would have?
It's not something we see as much as you had thought that you would have, for the following reason, that most of that land is still as income property, and
Right.
therefore the owners will not sell it super cheap. They also, usually the people that own it are the farmers or are in business with the farmers. So if their farmland goes out, the neighbor is already on the phone and getting that land under contract again. So we find very few times that you get, as a matter of fact, they advise our students away from areas where there's mostly farmland, because the fact that it's income producing, and it makes it already kind of a worse candidate for people giving you the discounts that we like. Because here's one thing, most of real estate looks for that motivated seller. Well, we're not actually looking for motivated sellers. What we're looking is for the true non-wanter. So the non-wanter is somebody that just bought something. Often it's people that buy a property. They live, let's say, in Chicago, and they bought a property in Texas to down the road, built their retire. Once they're retired, they want to move down to Texas and retire, build their home on there and retire. Well, what they didn't think of is that by the time they retire, they have children and grandchildren that also live up there. And now their doctors are there and their friends are there, and they don't want to leave their environment anymore. So now they have their house up there, and they still have a lot down there. They don't longer want that lot. Their kids are now in New York and in Los Angeles or something like that. And the kids like, we don't want that lot, but they want. But so they're like, well, if nobody wants it, you can have it. When our letter arrives, they're like, yeah, you can have it, and 25% is just fine, right? And because they probably didn't pay much more back then, so they're like, yeah, I paid $5,000 for it. I give you $5,000 for it, but it's worth 30 today. So that works. And farmland usually is not in that classification. There's very few non-wanters in there.
I got you. That's just interesting. Maybe since I'm in Indiana and like the only land deals I've ever ended up in were those types of deals, maybe I just got like the once in a million or once in a lifetime.
No, I think you can make it happen. It's just a different box.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we have our cookie cutter box where it's a
Right.
completely replicatable model that we teach also and that we have done. So yeah, we like properties worth between $10,000 and $100,000, right? And those properties we can typically get between 5 and 25 cents on the dollar. We pay for those, or we put them on a contract for those. Then we do either a wholesale or we do a seller financing sale. That's typically how we sell them. And everything outside of that still happens. We have a student right now who has a deal on a contract for $130,000. It's assessed at $500,000. So she's going to sell it for $350,000. She's going to make over $200,000 on that deal. but those are not the standard deals. The standard deals are the ones that make you anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000, or if you expand it, the higher priced ones are then from $15,000 to like $50,000. That's our cookie cutter model that you can literally build a business around if you just if you just follow the process and then you scale it and put your systems in. Your kind of the deal you just mentioned is more like a special deal. Like you find them, you might get it for 60 cents on the dollar, but 60 cents on a dollar and 20 acres is probably still a few $100,000. And you have to basically pay for that, and then you lease it out. So most of our students don't have a few $1,000s. They don't have somebody lend it to them. So what they just focus on the flipping, and they basically do exactly what the house flippers do, just without the house.
Right. No, I get it. No, I appreciate that. That's awesome. You know, this particular deals that I was involved with, we got them at really great prices, probably 30 cents on a dollar, maybe like the 5 or 10 cents on a dollar type of deal.
Oh, 30,
you might be able to get.
Do it. Absolutely.
It was maybe we just got really lucky, and it was a 2012 as well, which is like a different market than we're in today. But that's interesting. So correct me if I'm wrong. So when you say you're teaching land, you're not only teaching land, you're also teaching like 5 or 6 other parts of real estate. So first of all, you're also teaching tax liens, right? So like the way that you're
anymore.
teaching. Okay.
So yes and no. So over the process of doing land deals, we came into the tax lien world. Sometimes you find niche techniques. For example, if we can't get a hold of somebody, we have a particular piece of land that perhaps stands out for whatever reason. Or if it's a deal that we send out letters and they call us back, and it's a very convoluted ownership situation that really cannot be solved. Like it's an inheritance piece with like 27 heirs, and 5 of them can't be found anymore, and things like that. And you then don't get the right amount of signatures and so on. But because of that, nobody wants to take ownership of that property, and nobody wants to even pay taxes. Because of that, perhaps taxes haven't been paid. That's a great opportunity to go into that deal and try to find the tax lien and buy that tax lien if it's in a tax lien state, and then foreclose on it because they're not going to redeem it. This property is not going to be, nobody's going to pay off the property taxes on that thing. So in that case, it makes sense to learn tax liens, go in from the back door, buy that lien, wait for another half a year that you have to wait, and then foreclose on it. And then you still got that property, potentially then even cheaper than you would have had it otherwise, because all you had to pay is back taxes and the closing and the foreclosure costs. And now you might have a gem of a deal right there. So in that context, when we do a live event, when we do a seminar, I talk about tax liens as a way that you can make potentially more land deals happen. But you're right. Back in the day, since we've been teaching this for 11 years, we created courses about tax liens and tax deeds and different ways. We abandoned all of that because we even had a house flipping course because we started flipping houses. And at some point of time, we looked at each other, my wife and I, and we says like, why in the world are we flipping houses when it's like much more complex, much more things involved, much more expensive, much more stuff can go wrong. And instead, we're still making 90% of our money from land flips. Let's just go and abandon close all these courses and teach what is responsible for 95% of all our deals, which is land flipping, what we love, what we have been doing forever, what's the simplest of all methods. And that's just so we refocus. And today, that's the only thing for the last 3 or 4 years. That's the only thing we teach.
I got you. So you're basically teaching people to acquire the same way a house flipper would acquire. It's not necessarily, a tax lien or finding the tax liens and then going to trying to find those owners instead of even going through the tax lien process. Although that might be one of the lists that you pull to mail to or to try to contact people with. But you're teaching people to just go right out to, for sale by owner people, but really niche that down into land. Acquire that, through that way. And occasionally I'm sure that there's some deals that end up on the MLS that you can actually bid on, but that's probably not
not the mandatory thing. You can also pick properties from Craigslist occasionally, but in terms of scale it, we follow a model. And to do one step further, what we do is we actually no longer focus on tax delinquent properties because we realized that after doing like 200 deals that 80% of our deals didn't even have back taxes. So even the people that we went to, by the time we actually got to connect with them, they had already kind of like grudgingly paid the back taxes 1 more year. It's like, okay, I'll pay it 1 more year, but they still wanted to get rid of their properties. So we realized we don't have to go after tax delinquent properties. We just go after land between $10,000 and $100,000 with a few extra criteria. And then the other part is that we just, if anything, restricted to those areas that I mentioned, like the infill lots, the outside, and the larger acreage in attractive areas. So there's like a county like Elko County, Nevada, that we don't operate in anymore because it's like pure desert. There's like one town with 7,000 people in, and the county is like the size of Massachusetts, right? It's like humongous county, but there's nothing to do, nothing. I mean, you can go shoot rattlesnakes there, but that's about it, right? So, so this is not the counties we go. We focus on these ones that actually have a lot of sales going on, and then those tax lien things, they come in every once in a while. They come in as an additional as an additional tool on your tool belt as we do our standard direct mail piece. And that's the other thing. We don't just go for sale by owners. We don't just go for properties that are listed. We go for properties that are owned by private people. And then we initiate the contact. But the nice part is because it's land, our response rates are actually, there's almost no competition because you said nobody else, everyone focuses on the houses. And number two, our responses on these letters are anywhere between like 4 and 15%, which is obviously substantially higher and a multiple higher than what the house flippers are getting.
Yeah, I mean, most of those response rates are like 1 to 2%. So you're right. Absolutely right. So fishing in a pond where nobody else is fishing, it's awesome. I appreciate you, Jack, for stepping on here and teaching the audience. So basically what you're teaching your students is more about the exit strategies then and kind of where to find these deals. So I think that's really good and very valuable for our audience. So what exciting project or what kind of like event maybe do you have working on right now that our audience may be interested in and knowing about? Maybe it was an exciting, project that you did, or maybe something you have going on right now that you'd like for our audience to know about.
Well, we constantly sell our properties. That's not something like we constantly do deals. Our students constantly do deals. One thing that we have created for our students to hang out with and actually help each other is a Facebook group. That it's not like an event or so. We have an event coming up in January in Florida, but that's only for the people who have our educational material. So you got to have our material first, and then he can come to our event. Otherwise, the event ticket is pretty expensive. And but what the Facebook group that we have is open, is free. Anyone can join it and actually check it out and see the successes that happen. And a lot of our successful students in there. Just today, I saw a student posted something that they bought a property for $6,500 and sold it for $20,000. Well, that just happened today. And yesterday, another one posted that they got their first 2 offers accepted. And the day before, somebody posted that they made $4,500. The next day, somebody posted that they made like $61,000. And it's just like, it's on a daily occurrence. And that Facebook group, if I may share it, is called Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investing Group. So Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investing. That is a group for that. And then perhaps another place people can go to find out a little more is landprofitfun.com. So fun, like having fun, landprofitfun.com would be a place where people can find out more about what we're doing. But in terms of a project, the only other project that we're working on is that we have been doing this for 17 years now. And in the 17 years, we've obviously built up some wealth and built up some income, and we built up actually the seller financing. When we do seller financing these deals, we, for example, we buy a property worth $30,000 for $3,000. We sell it for $30,000 with a $4,000 down payment. So in that case, we get more as a down payment than we actually pay for the property, and then we have cash flow coming in. So what happens is over the years, we've built up our cash flow to over $70,000 a month coming into a bank account. And that's way more than we need to reinvest into our properties. That's way more than we need to live, obviously. We live a normal lifestyle. So what we started doing is we started actually going into the improved property area and started buying rental houses. And what we also do now is we syndicate larger apartment deals. So if there's a project that we're doing is right now we're buying 158 units in Oklahoma City, an apartment complex projects. And actually, funny enough, a lot of our active investors that are now doing really well with land flipping also have extra money over. So they end up investing with us on the apartment complex side too. But in terms of projects, we have our educational things going on, and we do our land flips, and then we we use the apartment complexes as the asset allocation and a tax strategy to actually shield the income we're making over here is being shielded with the apartment complexes and the depreciation over here, while they also provide cash flow for decades to come.
Awesome. I love it. So you've lived out a great, storyline for the last 22 years. And if you guys are paying attention, like just take that into your mind and be like, hey, I may not be where I want to get to now, but if I stick to this and I have some patience and I keep gritting it out and I figure out what, how to do this next thing, the more knowledge will be in your head. And in 22 years, again, like everybody wants the magic pill. Everybody wants to just, take the magic weight loss pill and not have to work out and not have to eat right. But really, it takes time, and these things take time. But you will find yourself successful on the other end if you're willing to put in the hard work and to continue on. And Jeff, Jack, you've been a great example of that, and I want to just commend you for that. And I appreciate your story, and appreciate you sharing that with us.
Can I add one thing to that?
Absolutely.
Just about the short thing. Now, having said all of that, the goal should be, my opinion, the goal should be focus on something that you can get rid of your job the quickest way. Because once you get rid of your job, you have 8 hours a day that you can dedicate to something full time. So that was our focus. Our focus was not to become whatever deca millionaires or whatever it is right now. Not become live the life that we live right now. That wasn't the focus. The focus was get out of the job that we didn't enjoy. So once we focused on that deal, and we focused on that, and we found the land flipping was the key for it. Then we just focused on, okay, a few more deals, and now this debt is paid off. And it only took us 10 months to actually become debt free, except for the house, and then only a year later for the house. And in that year, we paid off all our debt, and we put a year's worth of living expenses on the sideline, and we built up $5,000 in cash flow, which was more than I made in my job. And that only took 10 years. So it doesn't have to take a very long time for you to get to a position that you are financially able to quit your job. But then the fun just starts. So most people want to be like retired in 2 years. Well, if you're 37 and you're retired in 2 years, you're 39. What are you going to do for the rest of your life? You're going to sit on the beach, become an alcoholic, drinking margaritas? That's not it. I mean, yes, you can fulfill your other dreams. Like perhaps one of our students is a missionary, right? So he made 4 times his annual income in the first year doing this land deal. And then he took a year off and he just was a missionary for a year. And now he picked it back up. So you can do those things. But other than that, the long game is like focus on the shorter game of getting rid of your job, for example. But then afterwards, there's a whole lifetime still to go. And if you just keep doing the things and keep learning and keep expanding, then you're eventually going to be just abundant and wealthy and financially and personally free and grown so much as a person that you don't even recognize yourself from 20 years earlier.
Cool. So, again, the ways to be able to get a hold of Jack is Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investor Group on the Facebook group, and then also landprofitfund.com. I'm assuming that they could find, information to be able to purchase on that website. And then maybe if they're really interested, they may also be interested in the January event that you said is in Florida. So
sure. Yes. Everyone that has our course, for example, gets to attend the live event for free. And they don't have to attend that one. They can attend other ones in the past afterwards too. So yes, there's in both places you can find information about how to engage more with us. But either place is a whole bunch of free videos and free information and so on.
Awesome. So thank you so much for being on, Jack. So before you leave, I've just got 2 questions that I ask every single person that comes on this podcast. And good success means a lot of stuff for us. For me, good success means the right person doing the right thing for the right reason, with the right people, for the right amount of time. It is all about having the right kind of success. So when you hear the term good success, what does that mean to you?
Good success means to me, it's a great question. Good success means to me happiness, doing the right thing that aligns with who you are.
Perfect.
Because so many people doing stuff just for the money. Like most
Right.
people's job are doing just a job for their money. You look at statistics, they talk about 70% of people would quit their job if they win the lottery because they don't really enjoy their jobs. So it really comes in success is not just measured monetarily. Success is measured in how do you wake up in the morning and how much of a smile do you have in your face on your face about what your life looks like. And yes, to me, a happy life also has to do with financial things and a certain amount of like amenities and things like that. I enjoy those, but more because they're a measure of the things that we have done. It's like Warren Buffett says that he doesn't need more money, but money is a measure of how well he's doing certain things. So, but at the same time, you want to do that in a way that you can wake up in your morning and you be proud of yourself. You can go to sleep and you can go to sleep peacefully. You know you're doing good by people. You know you can say your word is what counts. All those things have to do with a good success. It's much more about the quality of your success and the quality of human being that you become than it is just about the money. Like, for example, we just gave a seller $25,000 back on a multifamily property that we put under contract, even though our attorney in the contract, we had to back out of the contract. And the agreement, the oral agreement that we had before was that if we back out, he would get to keep $25,000 of the escrow deposit. Well, our attorney forgot to put that into the sale agreement, and their attorney didn't catch it. So we signed the purchase and sale agreement without that provision in there. But you know what? I had given him my word. So if I give him my word, I'm not going to sleep well knowing that I basically screwed this guy out of $25,000 just because we decided that it's not the right deal for us. He took it off the market from another opportunity where he actually would have been able to sell it the next day to give us the chance of buying it. And for whatever monetary reasons, it wouldn't work out. So I was like, we had committed to 25 grand. It's not a contract. Who cares? So we gave him the 25 grand because our word is our word.
Right. And it shouldn't matter when you tell somebody that you're going to do something, like you should do it. It's one of those things that me and my wife like talk about, like, oh, did we tell our kids we were going to do that? And it's hard sometimes because sometimes you tell your kids things and you're like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have told my kids this, but it's something that you teach your kids by them seeing it in you. And, but especially when it comes to money, you know, I have seen so many people get so enthralled with money that they completely ruin a relationship because they didn't do what they said they were going to do, or they did something they shouldn't have done, really. Like I've seen two people go head to head in a lawsuit that were friends beforehand, and all because like over a deal. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like there's so many deals out there. Both of you guys are wrong. One of you guys should have just given up and just said, hey, like you can have the deal. Because at the end of the day, money is not what counts. So that's awesome. Thank you for that. Now, again, one more question. You've given tons of nuggets and tons of pieces of advice, but if you had to leave the audience with just one thing, one piece of advice, maybe a book, maybe, a process that you've gone through or whatever it is, just one piece of advice, what would it be?
The one piece of advice is that you wanna really dig into the reasons behind you wanting to get into real estate, because any real estate technique that you're going to do is going to have hurdles. You're going to come across crossroads. You're going to come across roadblocks. You're going to come across things like that, and it's going to be hard no matter what you do. Even land flipping has steps in it. It's way simpler than house flipping, but it has steps in it that you got to do. And if you don't do those steps, you're not going to get to success. And if you don't get your listings written right at the end and you post them on the right places, your properties are not going to sell. So you gotta do the things the right way, right? And so what you want to do is whenever you do anything in life, you're going to have those hurdles. So as a result, when you go out there, you have to have a reason that is bigger just than like, oh, I want to make some money. Because I want to make some money is not going to hold up when you come against adversity. Mm-hmm. And so as a result, what is your reason why? And we do an exercise at our live event where we basically have people create a one year goal setting thing where it's just like put out the goals, the things that you want to accomplish in 1 year, And then we ask them why. And then we do a 5-year vision. We ask them why. And it turns out that the reasons why people want to be successful and why they really need to be successful has usually nothing to do with money. It's because they can take care of their parents when they're older. So they have the freedom to go help their church, so that they do all those different things. So when you put those things in front of you, they are going to be the things that are more important than the little hurdle that you come across right now. So you keep overcoming those hurdles. But if you don't focus on your reasons why, then you're not going to do that. So focus. The number one reason why people are successful or why they fail, in my opinion, is that they don't focus enough on the reasons why they need to accomplish it.
Absolutely. I love it. I can't agree more. And that's the reason why that's question number one on the 30 Days to Good Success journey here. So thank you so much, Jack, for being on today. I appreciate your time. I'm sure my audience will appreciate you. Again, just one more time on that website for people to be able to get a hold of you.
Yeah, that would be Land Profit Fun, F-U-N. So landprofitfun.com, or the Facebook group is Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investing.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much, Jack, for your time. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode. Remember, if you haven't gotten the 30 Days to Good Success, you can get it on our website. There may be a coupon code or not. You can get it much cheaper on our website than you can get on Amazon. It is $50 there. Or if you're interested in a purpose-driven mastermind for elite entrepreneurs, you can go to the Good Success Mastermind. Or if you're local, right here in Northwest Indiana, Chicagoland, we also have the Community Go-Giver Club, which runs every single, the last Saturday of every single month, all-day event, which is like a really cool, smaller group mastermind. So if you guys are interested in any of those, we do have the Community Go-Giver coming up in June of next year, where we're trying to raise $30,000 to give to charities and give to community go-givers. If you haven't subscribed to the Good Success Podcast, please go on and give us a 5-star review and subscribe to the podcast. We would love to see you there. That's going to do it for today's episode. Remember to be a conduit, not a bucket. Work to have to give. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Hey everyone, Eddie Wilson here with Go Media. I'm so excited to be a part of the upcoming marketing boot camp with Good Success. I can't encourage you enough to come be a part of this. If you are struggling in any way with your branding, with your communication, with finding the leads that you need, this is a day that I would encourage you to invest in. Bring you and bring someone else that maybe does the marketing for your company, as they will enjoy a great amount of information and education in this space. I have owned 2 ad agencies in my lifetime and have done a lot of marketing, branding, and lead generation for some of the largest corporations in America. They're in our Fortune 500 list today. And I believe I can narrow that information and that concept down to the local small businesses I have done for many years, for my own businesses, to help you be successful. One of the things we're going to talk about in the marketing is how to communicate effectively with that potential customer. Marketing across all different venues and types. Also, we're going to talk about data, how to find great data. If your competitor is finding good data and you do not have access to data sources, they could be out communicating you and talking specifically to the customer that you would like. We're going to build a strategic roadmap on how you can get from where you are to where you want to go from a marketing perspective. I hope you'll come be a part, and I'm excited to see you at the Marketing Bootcamp at the Good Success Mastermind.
Hey everybody, Tom Olson here from the Good Success Mastermind, and I have some exciting news for you. On February 27th, 2020, we are going to have a whole day, full day, jam-packed, full marketing boot camp at the Good Success Mastermind, the first day of the mastermind. If you come, you're going to be able to stay there for the next 2 days and actually mastermind and be with super high-level kingdom entrepreneurs that want to live life on purpose, for purpose, work to have to give. They want to be a conduit. not a bucket. We have got myself, we have got Max Keller, we have got Carol Ellis, who's going to teach about copy, and Eddie Wilson is going to be headlining our Good Success Marketing Boot Camp that day. I can't wait for you to be a part of it. You know, the biggest outcome that I can see that you're going to have out of coming to this is having a full-fledged marketing plan. Normally, you might pay thousands and thousands of dollars for a company to come out and give you a marketing plan, but we're going to go through the structure. We're going to ask you the questions, and by the end of the day, we're hoping that you'll have a big picture, high-level marketing plan to be able to go out and implement. You're not going to know all the details, and maybe we can do some follow-up, and maybe we can, make that your next quarter rocks or whatever the case is. But I can't wait for this. I think it's going to be amazing. I've learned so much myself from Eddie Wilson personally, and I can't wait to be able to help you as well. So what you need to do, just click on the link below and just say, hey, I want to be there. Raise your hand and say, I want to be there to the Good Success Marketing Boot Camp on February 27th, 2020. I can't wait to see you there. Shake your hand and say, hey, let's be a part of the Good Success Mastermind.